I had a letter just before I left from a friend in, well, I don't remember, Tennessee, I think. And he said he was terribly disappointed in the tape he had just gotten, because in the tape at the very beginning, I said, if all of you folks will please be patient with me until I get over the nervousness and the stage fright and all the things that go with making a talk, I would appreciate it. And he said, that was a terrible thing to put on a tape. He said, I've been reading your work for 25 years and your books for the last 10 or 15. And in my mind's eye, you are not one who should be nervous before any sort of a group or gathering. So with that much having been said, I won't say that about getting my feet on the ground. I'll just start off with a good morning.
Good morning.
And for those who have visited me in Alabama, good morning, y'all. I want you to know it's great to be here. I'm back because I promised to be back. I was in the other parts of California and parts west earlier. One person who means very much to me, who will be here this afternoon, said, but you promised to come to Los Angeles. And I skipped all the other talks because I wanted to not have to travel so far. And I made a promise then to return, and that's what I've done. And it has not been publicized. But I'm keeping the promise, but I'm delighted to be here because this is a happy place to be. Even with all the smog, it's a happy place to be. Rachel, Mrs. Samuel. Some of you know her. And I boarded an airplane just ahead of 18 below zero weather in Minneapolis the other day. And then went to Atlanta. And there we boarded another aircraft for Los Angeles, and it had a machete mounted on the front of it, and we didn't understand why. Then, as we cut our way through the smoke coming into the L.A. airport, we realized why. I hope you folks don't think I'm making fun. It's of your smog. I am honored very much by all of you in attendance here. And just to add to the presumptuousness that I am, and the vaingloriousness that I guess this sort of an activity must appear to everyone to be, I am in the presence of some of the world's greatest communicators. Oh, I mean that really. Some of the world's grandest communicators who have their life long produced magnificent works of art for all the world to see, and who have acted out that communication so that others could see and hear and feel the beauty of whatever the presentation might have been. We have in our midst today, in my simple opinion, the greatest of all the producers of motion picture, who is one of the founders of the industry and who knows perhaps more about the art of what I'm here supposedly to do, to communicate, than anyone. We also have with us not just an ordinary performer or actress, but one who lives truth to the hilt and with such verve and gentleness and honesty, and that she has been awarded the highest awards that can be given. But now that is about as much as I'm going to have to say about people. The rest of it won't be about people at all. until we can all become quiet, I would like to state the purpose of this seminar, the purpose of this talk. By the way, I asked for a small room so it could be all close and intimate and we could all be gathered close together, but this is what was available. And so this is just fine. It has a Christmas tree and a blackboard and a loudspeaker so I don't have to shout. And tell me now if the volume seems all right.
Right.
Good. May I ask quickly before I get underway and tell you the purpose of the seminar, may I ask all of you to say a word. Now, all of you, I'm sure, have since the time I first came to California 10 or 12 years ago, you've all heard of the various mantras and the key words that can be uttered in meditation, all of which are supposed to be extremely helpful in self-realization and coming to touchdown at the heart of oneself. You've all heard that, haven't you? The Om sound and your own personal sound. Well, I would like to give you a word that I'm confident is the most meaningful of all. More meaningful than any you've ever heard. So, the word is squissle. Would all of you, if you don't mind, since this is going to be a seminar and it's going to be give and take, would you please repeat that word, squissle? Squissle. Now this area out here, you people know more about response than that. Please say it once again. Squissle. 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 Thank you. We will get into that later. Next, let's get the purpose of this seminar so that it is clearly understood. The purpose of the seminar. I would like to state it in as few words as possible. It will be to touch down on peace. I'll say it again from another direction. To find that inner peace that has been so heralded throughout the ages. Peace. Now, purpose of it is not just the academic understanding of what peace, equanimity, gentle tranquility, what it is, not that, but the purpose of this seminar is that we might all find it, touch it, feel it, be it. I say again, the mission of all of the religions of the world, all of the so-called systems, be they metaphysical or mystical or esoteric, be they Eastern or Western, the purpose of them is to bring what one calls himself to the conscious recognition of the joy identity is. Not an academic knowledge of it, not a lot of theory about it, not more speculation and guesswork, but the experience, the touchdown, so that one can consciously be the peace and joy that this season, this happy season, represents. Now, in addition to that purpose for this seminar, there's one more. By the time the 4 hours are concluded, not only will we have felt this peace touched it so that it is our own. But I would like to make it plain, and hopefully will, how one might never need fear losing it. Having it go away when we get back to the dishes and the pots and pans and the daily affair. Having it go away when it seems that we're off the mountaintop and boredom has set in and the world is surrounding us again. So, now to repeat, the purpose of these 4 hours, and this is quite an order. This is quite an order, it would seem. But the purpose of it is that we might touch down on the peace that light, God, isness, life is. So that it is us. It is I. And beyond theory about it, beyond speculation about it, beyond any guesswork about it, such that we know it and know we know it. And then, at least the means by which I have found for myself is a way that I don't have to go from mountaintop to valley experience. I don't have to ebb and flow and come and go anymore with joy on the one hand and anguish on the other, but such that I might maintain the conscious identity of the joy. Now, to make it clearer in the negative manner, after the Eastern traditions, the purpose of this seminar is not directly to create a euphoric sense of well-being. It is not the search for healing. It is not the search for anything that makes the mortal sense of self, the human sense of self, comfortable. It is not that at all. But rather is to find the peace that is present here and now as the very life one is. Now that we know the purpose, I would like to make these statements that sound self-serving. We'll get all that over with right now, too. I've been a teacher all my life. And because I've been a teacher all my life, I've been a student all my life. Furthermore, I am a good teacher. If you don't think that was egotistical enough, wait till you hear the next statement I'm going to make. I am the best teacher I've ever known. Ooh. Because the I that I identify as. Now listen gently, and please listen gently. Be easy with yourself. The I that I identify as is the very awareness that is right now listening. The very life that looks maybe at the front of a room and sees a podium and sees someone on it with a name called Bill. That feels a chair underneath the bahini and feels feet or floor underneath, feels feet underneath the floor. How about that? I identify as life itself, awareness, conscious awareness. Therefore, as a teacher, I am also the student. And as the student, I'm the teacher. Now that we might understand that, if all of you folks are accustomed your life long to attending lectures, thinking that you are listening to an authority who knew something you didn't, well, that's a little bit of old think that we can let go today. The awareness that is listening right now is the authority, not what you see, not what you might formerly have identified as. Awareness is who and what you are. To put this in terms as simple as possible, I might say that right now, you, as awareness, as life living, are listening to just another view of yourself. Your Bill view of yourself. Now, out here in California, hi Sue. Out here in California, you are inundated with messengers. Inundated with messengers and messages. Each one saying, this is the best one, this is the only one, this is the one to follow. Walk in this pathway. So, how would you know that what you are listening to right now is not just another messenger, another one of many? I'd like to explain that, if I may, because I think it will be integral. It's important that one understand that. In this morning's paper, there is an article about Mortimer Adler, philosopher. Incidentally, an unschooled philosopher who didn't even finish high school. But he is the most listened to philosopher, I'm told. He has published many books. As you know, he is part of the Great Books program, the Encyclopedia Britannica, I believe. But he is now very much interested in the Aristotelian proof of God. And apparently recently, Dr. Adler, who has since gotten his PhD, maybe it was honorary, I don't know, but anyway, he made the statement that there is as yet no foolproof philosophic presentation that proves the existence of God. He said there are many that profess to, that claim to, but none that are infallible. However, he goes on to say, he says, I think I have one. Well, very few in this universe have ever heard of the one called Bill Samuel. But this thing, this body image, appearing within awareness, the awareness that is life right now, has presented a philosophic statement in a proof that God is all, or that God is. And it has fought its way through some of the philosophical schools, University of Tennessee, Duke, which is here. Right now, some of the Duke people, having played basketball here in California last night, and they got beat, it went through their School of Philosophy and one other, and I might say that the proof as presented for the presence of deity or God has not been put down. So perhaps we should let Dr. Adler know about this statement. I would like to, as I said, explain one part of a statement that I made a moment ago about awareness being one's identity. And if I can prove that statement, I will be going a long way toward doing what Dr. Adler says can't be done, the positive, intellectual, academic proof of the presence of God. And while I won't touch down on it with all the detail that I'm capable of, with all of the philosophic ramifications with reason and logic and so forth, I'll make it a very quick and simple presentation. I submit that present, right now, awareness is. That is, conscious awareness is. This is a fact that is hardly assailable. One awakens in the morning and awareness is busy being aware. That is, we may not like how it's aware. We may say it isn't very much aware. I need a cup of coffee to get going. Or it may say, I wish I were not aware because this day it harbingers much work and much anxiety and so forth. But nonetheless, awareness is aware, effortlessly aware. Awareness. We might equate that term with life. Life. Right this minute, awareness is listening to sounds. I submit that the only awareness that we've ever been concerned about is this awareness. Now, I don't mean Bill awareness. There's no such thing. I mean the awareness that is right now listening, being. We might say feeling, hearing, seeing, and so forth. But the awareness that is being is the only awareness that we've ever been concerned with. Right here, right now. Never another. Never another. Make me prove it's never another. Somebody just recently said, why the heck do you say? I'm concerned with my mother-in-law's awareness. She's forever giving me a fit. Where does friend, mother-in-law, wife, husband, lover, enemy, world, Pleiades, deity, where do any of those concepts make themselves apparent? But within this awareness that is aware right here, right now. One awareness only. Where have we ever heard of things past? History, Abraham Lincoln, Civil War, the beginning of the motion picture industry, the beginning of reason and logic. Where? But within this awareness that is presently aware right here, right now. Anybody else's awareness do that? No, no. This one only. If it appeared that another one did it, we became aware of it here, only as this awareness. One can say, but Abraham Lincoln was a brilliant man and lived and thus in such a period of time. But where did that information register? Where do we become aware of it except here, as this awareness that is presently aware now? Now, what about the future and all of the projections of what is to transpire and take place that the world seems at the moment so interested in? What appears to be the approaching demise of a body called death? What about the dreams of the future, whether they're going to be positive or whether it's going to be an Armageddonic struggle of some sort? where do those speculations take place? Or where are they read, heard, thought about, dreamt about, except as this awareness, right here. We have lived forever alone as this awareness of being. Awareness of being? Yes. What is awareness aware of? Awareness is aware of the sights, the sounds, the feelings that appear within itself. Awareness is aware of the children, the sons, the father, the mother, the daughter, the president, the new emperor in the middle of Africa, within itself. All are within awareness. This gentleman behind, King Vidor, who has made so many monumental motion pictures in times past, knows that whatever transpires on the screen, the substance is all screen. Whatever the images on the screen do, whether they sit up or sit down, whether they turn to the right or turn to the left, whether they say their lines well or poorly, the substance is still all screen. The substance of all that is transpiring here this moment is awareness. Awareness. Life. Now, folks, just by way of a little bit of relief, will all of you rest just a minute and let me kind of shoot the bull a minute. You know, when we attend talks and go and listen to people talk, we go usually with a goal in mind, a purpose in mind, enlightenment perhaps, information, or entertainment. But we're not always certain of the platform from which the speaker speaks. We've been fooled many times because we would go and we would listen, and lo and behold, when it was all over, we could see that the basic platform from which the utterance was made was a self-serving presentation, maybe for dollars or for a following, or as you would say here in this country, it was a big ego trip and you were subjected to that. And had you known the position from which the words were spoken, you could have saved yourself the effort. I get periodic arm and hand signals over here that would indicate at the moment that we are getting to the end of the tape, and I would like Rachel Jane to turn it over. I call her Rach because she responds very well to that. I was saying, we're often not certain of the position from which the speaker makes his presentation. There was a time, for example, when we went and attended, say, a Christian Science lecture. We felt we knew the speaker's position. And that position would be a statement that comes forth from the position that Christian Science represents. Now, of course, when we go and attend a lecture of any sort, we feel that we are certain of our own position, generally what we want. The old think of us certainly wants that the speaker's position will in some way accommodate our own position, to fortify it, to strengthen it, and to make us much happier about the position we brought into the room. And very often we're terribly disturbed when we bring our own position into the room and we listen to someone, and lo and behold, the presentation does not accommodate the position we felt we have. It doesn't agree with it. It perhaps chops the legs out from under it and leaves us floundering. Now, if you don't think that that's just the old nature of us, watch how, as you browse through a bookstore looking at the new books and you see an interesting title, notice how quickly you look to see who the author is, because you might very well know the position of that author, having read him before, or her. Notice how next, if you don't know that author, you look to see what his qualifications are. Who sponsors him? And this is the intuitive, the mortal intuitive search we all make to look for a position to support our own. There was a time, for instance, if you saw a book that was written and it had the mark, the imprimatur of the Catholic Church there, you could say, well, now this book is a Catholic presentation. And if you were interested, you'd read it. But if you felt that this was an idea or a philosophic platform, position that was not in accord with your own, you'd simply put the book aside and not read it. But you see, that is no longer possible, because now, when one comes forward, and it would appear his position is that of a Christian Scientist, or a Zen Buddhist, or a Taoist, he might very well be an excommunicated Christian Scientist or Taoist. He may be a non-organizational Catholic. He may be one of the innovators within his philosophy. So therefore, we can't tell anymore from the little blurb at the beginning of the book what position the book is written from, or what position the lecturer who stands at the podium, what that position is. And being flooded, as you are here in California, with 10,000 ologies, 20 new ones an hour, it isn't possible to examine all of these positions and do much more than guess. But I would like to suggest what I've done for myself that allows me to know what to listen to. But before I do that, may I tell you the position from which all that proceeds during the remainder of the time we're together, the position of this one presently appearing within the awareness that you are. And bear in mind, what awareness sees, awareness be. I owe that statement to a friend, Joel Goldsmith. Very bright light within this awareness that identity is. A helpful, loving light within this awareness identity is. But all lights are within this awareness identity is. To include Hitler, to include Idi Amin, to include any philosophy, any concept, any idea that could present itself. It is present here and now within and as this awareness that's listening. So therefore it is for this awareness to see what is before it and to understand what is before it. And inasmuch as awareness is the functioning of mind, the only mind around, it can do it wisely. And inasmuch as the images that appear within awareness are obviously subservient to awareness, the image doesn't have the dominion, but rather the awareness that appears to birth the image has the dominion. So we can understand. But now, I want you to understand the platform. First of all, I've told you what our mission is. It's going to be to find peace, not a healing. Let me tell you, there's no healing until peace presents itself. till a sense of equanimity is felt and lived. Those are the added things. Or as that lovable old gentleman George Burns just said in his recent motion picture, the healings and the miracles and so forth are, what was the term? Special effects. Those are the special effects. Is that what you want me to do? He said, no, we're here about a much more important thing. But the special effects follow. Jesus spoke of healing as the added thing. He said first, love God with all thy heart and all thy soul. All right. The position from which these statements and all that follow will be made, whether it sounds like it or not, whether I'm absolute or not, whether the words come out as you want them to or not. The conscious position from which I speak is very simple. It is that God, 10 years ago I couldn't use that word very well here in California. Things have changed out here greatly. Now I can say it without being offending as appearances go. But that God is present right here, right now. But more than that. That God, or the ineffable, or isness, or Tao, or whatever term you wish to use, that God is all that is present right here, right now. And there is no not here, there is no anywhere else, because right here, right now, anywhere else is only a concept here. And there's no other time but now, because any concept of the past or the future is a concept that is brought forth here, now, and a very perfect here, and an eternal now. Okay, I repeat. Our purpose is to touch down tangibly on peace. And all that comes forth in order that we might become aware of that joyful peace, the experience itself. That feeling that lets one jump up and down and click his heels again. The position, in my opinion, the only position that permits it, or that would permit illumination, to use those terms, is the position that states at the very beginning that God is all. Now let's be a little bit more practical. That God is being right here, right now, all there is to this awareness, life that is living. That God is the substance of all tangibility. That God is the substance, the very nature of all form, all thoughts, all ideas, all concepts, whatever they might be. All right, I've stated our mission, purpose of this seminar. Not to leave you elated and walking on eggshells and saying, oh, how inspirational, only to have it all collapse the minute the phone rings with a bill collector's there, or the moment the body in one way or another aches or pains and declares it isn't so. And no, the purpose is joy. And the predicate from which it will be presented is that God is total in all, and I can prove it for myself, and hence I think so that it will not be put down, cannot be. Now, in order to do this, obviously, it's necessary to use words. Words are a form of communication. There are many ways to communicate. We have real master communicators who are able to take the most intricate and beautiful essences and portray them such that those who watch and see feel them and live them with it. And, of course, communication includes that. It includes body English, it includes music, It includes mathematics, feeling, speech. But we've all heard the statement that when we are going to talk about the ineffable, we're going to talk about God, that this is an infinite idea, and consequently words, being man-made and being finite, can never say it. There's a statement I know you're all familiar with out of the East, that those who talk about it don't know it. And those who know it don't talk about it. To put it in the terminology we've been using here, those who have discovered the grand joy, the childlike peace that one is, they go around talking about it. Because it would seem there are no words for it. But we live it because we can do nothing but it. And it's seen in the process of being lived. It's seen as a It's seen as a twinkle in the eye, and it's seen as a sense of equanimity. It's seen as it's seen in many ways. And inevitably, where joy has been found, where the light has been seen, we find people coming to us and saying, tell us about it. Why do your eyes shine? How are you able to keep on and do the wonders that you do despite the accumulation of times, years, and all that stuff? How? And so the very ones who say, those who speak don't talk about it, those very ones are forced in one way or another to talk about it. But as we've seen, words themselves are inadequate. It's true that a finite word can hardly encompass an infinite idea. And we have thousands upon thousands of messages attempting to encompass the infinite idea or some aspect of it. And we wonder who to read and who to listen to. First comes one and then another, then a third and a fourth and a fifth. Teachers into one's experience. But they are disputing among themselves, arguing among themselves, saying, I'm right, he's wrong. And so once someone said, Father, tell me, to whom am I to listen? Which way is the way to walk? Which way is the way to go? Well, for myself, here's what I found. And I can only speak for myself. And I said a little while ago, I'm the best teacher in the whole world. And here's why. Who can tell my story better than I can? Who can tell what this one has come to see and feel and live and be and do better than I can? No one else can. Others can only theorize and speculate and editorialize. And this is what we read when we pick up books. 99 out of 100 books. People are theorizing about what Mrs. Eddy meant when she said this and that and the other thing. It's an editorial opinion about what Joel's meant, or what Lily in the Waters meant, or what Margaret Laird means. Who can tell one's own story better than oneself? Those of you who got the last note from Woodsong, it ended with a statement, let's watch what comes out of the mouth. Because we tell our own story. And it's the only story that we can speak of and tell with absolute authority. And so that's the story I tell now. And as you identify as awareness listening, you're only, in essence, listening to a book on the shelf, a mirror on the wall called Bill. And I suppose at the moment you could say, well, I don't know if it's an honest message or a dishonest message, whether the mirror is clean and straight and giving an honest depict of what stands before it or not. or whether the book has been written from an honest position or a dishonest position, but hopefully as time goes on, you'll see. I found for myself that there appeared to be two ways to arrive at an understanding of what truth is. Two ways. One, very common, and it includes within itself all of the academic presentations. It includes within itself many of the metaphysical presentations, in fact most, with some rare exception. It includes mysticism and all of the mystical presentations. It includes within itself all of the occult and esoteric presentations. But it has a basic premise from which it starts, and that is, it starts from the position of you are a student about the business of learning the truth. That is, it starts from a position of you don't know what the truth is, and here I am to tell you what it is and what to do and how to get there. And if you do this and do that, bit by bit, line upon line, here a little, there a little, you will arrive at an understanding of truth. I call this for myself the bottom-up presentation, and I walked along many of its pathways, considering myself not awareness within which all unfolds, but I considered myself the possessor of awareness. For good reason. I was told, and had been told many times, that, and God gave awareness life to me. And here I am then the custodian of it, the owner of it, the possessor of it. And oh boy, I was an ignorant owner of it. And I wanted to know all about the giver of it, the truth, the absolute truth. And I set out on a long journey, walking bit by bit, here a little, there a little, to acquire truth. Now, 99 and 9/10% of the presentations that are made are presented in just such a fashion, leaving one identified as a searcher, as a pilgrim along the way, as someone along an infinite pathway moving toward the truth. And you do realize, don't you, that no matter how absolute one gets in that search, even when he has reached the metaphysical pinnacle of absoluteness, he is still encumbered with a basic dualism, a me and the truth, or a me and the goal that I'm just about to get to. I'm only a whisper away, but my goodness, look how far ahead I am of those that have just started this journey, or those who know nothing of this journey. There is another way, another method of, to use the word, awakening. There's nothing to awake, but I'll have to use that word, awakening. We're awake now. Awareness is wide awake now. Whether your body is sleeping and you're hearing no words or not, awareness is going right on being aware. And the intellectual content within it makes no difference. And you know what? It doesn't make a particle of difference whether what you're hearing now makes sense or doesn't make sense. Whether you're listening or not listening makes no difference. This thing is not important. What is important is the awareness that life is, that you are. And it's perfectly about its business right now. But we've been schooled to let's understand the academic presentation. Let's make sure that the words are strung so that the reason of the words and the logic of the words make sense. So that this me who is the possessor of awareness will know what to do and can go out and do it. And hence lead a more godly life and a less sinful life and so forth. But now, folks, there's another way. There's another method. And listen gently, because while the intellect of you, the reason and logic of you, will perhaps quarrel with this or not understand it, there is about you that which will understand it, and for lack of a better word, I just say the heart of you, the child of you, the real of you, even though the intellect of you is not unreal. The intellect has its place. But it would appear that mentation, the process of awareness, seems to be dual in nature. Part of it is intellectual, concerned with people, places, and things, concerned with a tangible experience, concerned with learning the lines and living the lines and producing the best, writing the best, and so forth. And the other part, and that's quite necessary. Otherwise, we wouldn't know how to read or get up and down the steps. We would walk out on one of these freeways here in California and very quickly get lost. In fact, I do anyway. The heart as its counterpart, which is an intuitive thing. The heart of us is quite contrary to the intellect of us in lots of ways, but in very simple ways that we all understand. The heart of us, for instance, loves. It just loves, without reason and without logic. Make me prove that. Have we ever seen a mother who has a son who's wayward, indigent, cruel, vicious? He is everything that society abhors. He has been condemned by everyone but by the mother who loves him. The heart loves. Have we ever seen a woman who was married to a basketball fan or a television fan, and all he does is drink beer and smoke cigars and get ashes all over everything, and he is an absolute ne'er-do-well, and yet she loves him with a passion. Love loves beyond reason, beyond logic. All right, so the heart of you, the love of you, the child of you will understand what I'm going to say now. While the ordinary message has us starting out as an ignorant mortal about the business of putting on righteousness, a journey from mortal sins to the Christ light that identity is. It has us on an upward journey. There's another message that begins with the goal. It begins with God as all. It begins at the top. It begins with the goal of all of the other philosophies in the world. Now, someone, I can hear it, but that isn't practical. How can I do that here? What do you mean, begin with God? I've still got my business, my automobile's out there with a battery that's run down, I left the headlights on. And what do you mean, begin with God? Just that. We began all of our consideration of tangibility, all of our consideration of the human experience, all of our consideration about life, about death, about son, about daughter, about all those things that come to our attention by whatever means they enter awareness. It begins first with the concept that God is all. Consequently, God, isness, the ineffable, is the basis for even the automobile out there with the headlights on. Even the smog that seems to be, I don't know why you folks consider it a blight. It's beautiful. It makes the sunshine so bright when it comes out. Gives you something to talk about. And the other people who would love so dearly to be here, it gives them some way to say, I'm all right and you ain't all right. We began with God. And then, from that position, the top position, we then look out on precisely the same thing we would be looking out on if we had started from the bottom up. Now, makes quite a difference. It makes a lot of difference. If we see two images within awareness over here, and one is sitting down and he is reading a most beautiful esoteric book, claimed to be absolute and filled with all kinds of wisdom and light, and he sits there and he is bottom-upping. He's starting out as an ignorant mortal within this is the opinion he has of himself, and he is determined to get the meat from that book and take the meat from that book and live it and put it to practice. That's the position of the one. And sitting right alongside him is another, and he's reading the same book. He's even on the same page. In fact, he's not even as far. He may be just at the beginning of the book, and the other one is at the end of the book. But this man on the other side says, the very awareness that reads this book is the divine awareness. And I'm about the business of letting go the idea of one struggling to become smart. Now, they both read the same words. They consider the same idea. They see the same events transpiring in the world. They hear of the same approaching cataclysm. They hear of the same whatever has beset this world or this nation or this family or that one. But it is seen from two entirely different positions. One says, goal am I, looking at what's before my eyes and understanding it. And the other one says, mortal am I, struggling and striving and trying to climb up God's leg, hopefully to get into some holy navel that I can sit and meditate looking at, and thereby lose my sense of humanhood. The other one has no sense of humanhood in it to start with, because the other position is that this awareness right here, right now, is God awareness. And folks, listen. This awareness, this life that is living now, is God life. It is God life living. There is no human possessor of this life. That which says, this is my awareness. I want to take care of it. I want to instruct it. I want to get smart. That one, that me who says my, is all there is to the old man, all there is to mortal mind, all there is to error, all there is to illusion or devil. And folks, what I've just said is not a metaphysical, mystical, esoteric statement. What I've just said now, beautifully, now has become a part of simply the scientific world statement. There is no particle physicist who, now, that I know of, who isn't aware of the fact that that which he observes is appearing within awareness, and consequently the substance of that of which he is observing, its very substance, is mind. And even among the psychiatrists, a burgeoning new school within psychiatry now says, this ego that we've been trying to get to the root of and find out why it has an Oedipus complex or an Electra complex, or why it hates this or loves that and is fearful of this or fearful of that. That ego that we've been trying to heal doesn't even exist outside the belief is life, and is it, and is identity. And the possessor of it is only a belief. So who is this me who says mine? It's a belief. But awareness is real. And this awareness we'll find out is eternal. This awareness goes right on, whatever the body appears to do or not do. Whatever intellectualism or mentation call clarity of thought, clarity of vision, clarity of hearing, whatever happens to any of that, awareness goes right on being aware. And we'll talk about that during the next hour. This has been a fast first hour, and I'll make the rest of it lighter and more gentle, but we were laying the predicate. So may we take a 10-minute break? Restrooms and water are just outside the door, and I'll ring a bell. We have explained what our mission is to be, and the platform from which these statements are being made. I would like, before King Vidor leaves, to make this statement. It was coming up anyway, King. So, by the way, I have a son whose name is King. How's that? So it's an easy word for me to say. Inasmuch as the presentation of this sort of an idea requires words, and since words appear to be finite and incapable of encompassing infinity, I would like to make another one of those wild statements. But I have discovered another way to communicate, another method of communication. And I say that because it is a new way to communicate, yet it has always been around, and it has been done intuitively by all of the great communicators and all of the not great communicators throughout history. But I have become aware of it. As awareness, this method of making a presentation has presented itself to me, and I must make it clear so you will know what will transpire from this point on. Now, all I can do now is to use analogies and illustrations as I go along. Very briefly, I have discovered the use of overtones. Now, the musicians of you know that if you strike one note on the piano, and then you strike another note on the piano, in harmony, but another note, you have struck two individual notes. Now, a note, by definition, is finite. That is, it is a tangible, measurable thing. It is not all there is to music. Consequently, that one note is finite. It's tangible, just like a story would be, just like this meeting is. It's a tangible event appearing within a sequence of events, which is what time is. And time is applicable only to tangibility. Certainly when we're daydreaming or we're heart being, there's no consciousness of time then. Okay, now, a note then is a tangible sound on the piano. Bang, a note. Now, I found out that I could tell a story, and then later I would tell another one. That is a story of my own living, something relative to these ideas that I had lived, and had lived all the way through, to come out on the other side of, so that it was no longer an event that I didn't understand, but one that I did. I understood it, and could speak of it, therefore, with authority. And then I would tell perhaps another story, hoping to make some point that would be helpful to that part of myself who had come to listen to myself. Now, if I sound one note and hold it and strike another note, what happens? You all know. All the musicians of you know. All the non-musicians of you know. We strike an overtone. A third note is sounded. Now the musician automatically reaches for the chord, that is the overtone, when he strikes the piano. But nonetheless, it is a note that he did not tangibly strike. I began to notice that as people would come to visit with whatever their problem might be or condition or whatever, and I would start at the beginning with awareness. And I would stick to the beginning as awareness and would tell the story from that position. It would be as though I had sounded a note. And then maybe later in the morning I would sound the second note, another story to help. And then perhaps it would be break time and they would leave and have lunch and come back later for a continuation of the togetherness. But when they would come down the pathway through the pine trees, I would see bright eyes and a big smile, and they would say, "Guess what? While I was having lunch, this is what I came to understand, or this is what seemed to become very clear to me." And do you know what it was? It was that for which I was reaching, but had no words to say. They were giving me the overtone. Now, all I can do is tell you that for 25 years, as time goes, for reasons that I don't fully understand, people, lights of myself, have come to be my teacher, my student. They found me wherever I was, even though the thing called Bill did everything to preclude any visitors or to have anything to do with coming out and talking, but they found me. And for 25 years I have seen that I can sound overtones, and the overtone will be heard, which is quite beyond the statement I'm making. Now I know I haven't said that well, but I'll say it again. Let me try again. If I sound one note on the piano and then sound the second note on the piano, and the overtone comes forth, and it is not what I struck, it is the third sound. The third sound is heard by the listening. Now, the overtones that I will sound from this point on will be heard by the listening that one is, and consequently will be immaculate, will be pristine, will be virgin, will be your own. And because it is your own, you'll know it's your own, and you will know that it isn't Bill's message or Margaret's message or Joel's message or Jesus' message or Engelbert Humperdinck's message. It is one's own message, because the overtone comes forth from within yourself. Now, I've learned how to do this. I found that I can, in this way, at least in a small way, say that which can't really be said. I can say, well, let's quit talking about it and let's do it. This idea of the use of overtones is not new nor unique. It's been done. All good writers do it. King, in creating some of his motion pictures, and knows that if for the most effective noise, something that will lift the audience right out of the seat, it is quite good to have preceding that maybe something very quiet, so that by contrast comes the noise with great gusto. Why? There's nothing new about that. Shakespeare, in the process of writing, preceded his softest sounds with the harshest, and vice versa. Statements of love were often preceded by the grand mishmash of hatred and envy and anxiety and all the other things that are not love, so that love by contradistinction or by comparison would be very, very noticeable. those of you who have, over the years, so faithfully wanted to come and study with me and have been refused, I would like now to explain this and explain why, because it also has to do with overtone. Incidentally, I was asked that on the phone this morning by someone who said they would be late arriving. Why, he said, have I never been able to come and study with you? And to answer him now and those others that may have wondered, it is always the message and not the messenger. It seems that we have a way of allowing the messenger to get in the way of the message. And very often the messengers are much more anxious to have the messenger heralded and feted and wined and dined and glorified and followed and paid homage to, and to hell with the message. That seems to be part of the scene too. And so it is the message that brought you here today. And it's your own message, not one that belongs to any individual or any person or anyone who can own it. Well, when someone writes and says, I would like to come and study, there isn't an automatic response that everyone has gotten for years and years. Now bear in mind, please understand, when I say I have reference to awareness, not this thing, the meat man, not this thing of pumps and blood and all of that, which is only a most infinitesimal part of identity, the I that I am. The I that I am is life. And I do so identify, and it becomes very easy to do. But it doesn't throw this out the window. It doesn't do away with the body. It only allows the body to be seen as what a body is. And it allows me as awareness to see that all bodies are myself. All trees, all mountains, all bright eyes, all messages are some aspect of myself to be understood. So when the letter comes to me, I want to come and study with you. The immediate response is no response. None whatever. The letter isn't answered. It isn't possible to answer all the letters that one gets. I don't have a secretary, and I don't have an organization, I don't have any buddy except sweet Rachel Jane to help me answer what letters I can or mail them and whatnot. But there's no organization, nothing like that for this thing. Consequently, this can't answer all the letters that are addressed to it, but nor could I teach all that would come and say, I want to sit at your feet, as though there was some wisdom there. So the no response does a very marvelous thing. It offends the ego. It offends the one who says, my life will be enriched if I can go and study with Beulah, with Mary, with Elizabeth, with Jane. My life will be enriched if I can only sit at the feet of King and listen to him tell tales of the wonders of the industry or something. And we've all had people want us to do that. Well, the ego is offended with no answer. The one who says, my letter, my desire has not been replied to. The me who says my, the me who says I am ignorant and would like to get smart has been offended. And this eliminates 99 out of 100. Because now we all maintain such a position as that. Oh, I did. Oh, how long I held on to such a grand position that this awareness is my awareness, my life. And oh, I'm going to do grand things with it. I'm going to get smart. I'm going to say it better than it's ever been said before. And I prided that ego as an intellectual that had read and studied and had chased every master, every teacher that would listen, that would accept me, until one day a sweet lady, Lily in the Water. How many of you have heard of Lily in the Water? Very beautiful, bright mirror of the self I am. Another mirror of the self I am. even as this hopefully now can be understood as just a mirror within awareness. Telling yourself of yourself, but hopefully telling yourself of your uprightness and not your many foibles. Well, so the first letter offends that ego, the me who says mine. I remember I was offended by a lot of people, but I got a letter from this lovely lady who said, please, with what you appear to be getting from what I've written, why should you allow gray hair and stooped shoulders to come between? All right. But there is 1 out of 100 who do not allow the ego offense to brush the bill mirror aside. And so 1 out of 100 will write and say, I would like to come and study with you anyway. I still want to be there. Is it possible to arrange a schedule? I can get to Mountain Brook, even though that it has to be the hinterlands of all North America. I will be there. And to this letter, with this kind of enthusiasm, this kind of determination, I then write the second put down. It says, and this one is aimed at the intellect of us, at the metaphysical intellect of us. It says, what do you think is here in Mountain Brook that isn't there where you are? What do you think you can benefit by from listening to the one called Bill, when every tree and every mountain and every bird and every bird song is already a teacher there, available to disclose yourself to yourself. So, this washes out the remaining, well, 99% of the 1%. I didn't say that well, but I think you know what I'm saying. Now, please notice that the first statement was an affront to the real ego, to the ego, the me that says my awareness, the grand possessor of life, the custodian of God, of truth, as if truth needed a custodian. And the second one makes metaphysical sense. The second one is appeal to the highest intellectual level one can attain, because the intellect says, yes, the truth is everywhere present and nowhere absent. Sure, that makes great sense. And why? I don't have to go anywhere or see anyone or do anything to come to recognize and understand the truth that identity is. And now, while that is true, I have found for myself that there remains still 1, then, and 1,000, 2, and 10,000 of myself, to whom truth, the living of it, the being of it, the joy of it, the acknowledgement of it, means more than anything else on earth.